Welcome back to another video. In our last couple of videos, we understand what REST API is, and then we understand about some of the code Spring concept, and we implemented those using our code. Now in upcoming video, we are going to understand more about Hibernate. Before proceeding for Hibernate, you need to understand that when you have implemented your REST API for your application, whoever wants to consume your REST API, either it's a web application or it's a mobile application. API stands for Application Programming Interface, so anyone can use your API or you can call any other API. So we haven't done that part yet, that if you want to call someone from other API from your Java code or from front end, that is we'll cover later on. So imagine that in our last REST API video, we have customer object. Everywhere in every application we have a customer form where they fill the information, and those information is captured in a UI using calling your API and then saving that information in your database. So for Java, Hibernate plays a crucial role. So now let's jump in and start our project, and then on the way we'll talk more. We'll come to our favorite site, startspring.io. We'll select Maven. Language is Java. We'll use the default latest version which is selected. That shouldn't be any problem, but it has to be greater than 3. Then you can define your group ID. Then our artifact ID. Now we'll add our dependency. So we will be using Postgre, okay, and then we will be Spring, no, not Spring, but Spring Data JPA. Why I have used Postgre? Because I will be using Postgre as a database for our demo and in our entire this series. So basically I could use another database. If you have any preferred choice of database you want me to use, you could just pin down in the comment section. In future I can use that database. Many more things will come in future, because this is just a normal database, means this database will be set up in my local machine, not in some server. Second part is that we will also cover NoSQL database like MongoDB, so that will come in future. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, if you are new to my channel viewing this for the first time, you should subscribe to my channel so that you shouldn't miss any update. Now let's download this. We'll download this. So once it is downloaded, we will move this into our workspace. And we will unzip it. Then we'll open our IDE. We'll open this. We'll go to our workspace. We'll open this. We'll come to pom.xml and see whether our dependency are there. So we have our dependency. The one is data JPA and another is PostgreSQL. We'll come to our main application. Okay, everything fine. So before we proceed, we need database. So I have already set up my database. So I haven't installed database server, because 5 years ago or maybe 10 years ago we need to install database in my local machine. All those fancy setup we need to do, and that require a lot of time, and sometimes you miss some step and then it causes some issue. And usually when you install anything, right, you face so many issues, because someone is using Mac, someone is using Windows, someone is using Linux, any other, means you have Windows 7, Windows 10, anything. So that's why, and anyhow, this is not a Docker playlist, but soon I will be uploading beginner to advanced guide for Docker. So now what I have done is, so we need database, two things. One is that database server, and then another is database client. So we can also use we can also use command line to see we know within the server as a root, so that we don't need database client, but database client is more like a UI thing, so it's quite helpful. So I'll just quickly demo it, because this is not a Docker video, so I have not created how to install or how to set up Postgre database in Docker. We have downloaded the images and then we have my container running. So I will start my database server first, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to start my Postgre client, pgadmin 4 client. So once my servers are running, okay, database system is ready. Okay, my database system is ready, and then we'll come to, okay, so it is running at localhost port 8080. So make sure, because it is running in 8080, we cannot run our application in 8080 once we build our API. So usually people do face some issue, but here you will not face those kind of issue. So my database are up. So now what are we going to do is we will come to our application, but before I come to our application, we'll come to our browser. We'll open localhost 8080. Okay, so this will load my pgadmin 4, which is the UI to access the database. This is running in Docker. It's not running in my local. You can see that it is running in Docker. So the request just now we have 409 time. Now we will come to our server. We have a database called master spring boot 3, and we have a schema. We only have one schema, which is public, and there is no table. You need to see that there is no table in our database server. So now what you can do is, if you have a database installed, you can download. I would request you not to go for Docker because it might complicate you. If you can do it, that is very good, but soon I will upload a video how to set up Postgre in Docker. But if you have database already set up in your local server or your company server, and in your dev or SIT or in your college server, you can easily use that information. You just need it, the information, what are the server information for that database, and then that's all you need. Then we will come to our application. We'll close these two things. We'll open our resources. We'll come here, and then we will define few things. First is spring dot data source dot URL, because we need to have our database URL. So this URL is very easy. adbc colon postgres 0.0.0.0.05432. This IP mine is a bit different because I am running it in Docker. You can use the same IP which you could see in your database server. So you can use this IP. Okay, that shouldn't be any problem. And then we will have our database Postgres. Then we will have spring dot data source dot username. So my username is Postgres. Then again spring dot data source dot password. Password is admin. Typo. Okay. Now there is one more property which we needed, is that spring dot jpa dot hibernate dot ddl hyphen auto colon. We'll do none first. Okay. Now we have our database URL, database username, database password. So now what are we going to do is we'll come to our package and we'll create one package is called entity. in this entity we will create a class called customers. Now what are we going to do is we will create our fields. So customer will have an ID. We could also make it little better. Okay, we'll keep it. We'll have one more ID, I would say. C_ID. Private string. First name. Last name. First name, last name. We can have email as well, because when we will be building front end we can also have first name, last name, email. We can also have mobile number. We can also have one more thing, which is we can also have username property, private string username. That should be fine. Okay, now what are we going to do is we will be marking this as an entity annotation. So entity annotation is part of Jakarta persistent. Now we will do one more thing, is that we'll mark this as an ID. This will be quite very simple video. It's just you to understand or to focus more on that, how the connection works basically. So we are not creating any REST API, we just created our database connection tool and we have created one more entity. Now what are we going to do is we'll just come to our console, and we'll not console, will come to our UI, we'll just refresh it and we'll see whether anything is there or not. Okay, so no, nothing is present here. Now what are we going to do is we are going to open our application. We'll right click and we will run our application and we'll see what will happen. So something is happening but we don't know what it is. Okay, so my application is started and my application shut down. You could see that it is printing some information that initiated JP entity factory manager, started application, then closing JP entity factory manager, and then Hikari pull server. It has printed certain things, but application shut down. Okay, application shut down. Now we'll come back to our database. We'll refresh our tables. We'll see, okay, nothing is present here. Means we don't know whether anything happened or not. So now we'll come back to again why nothing is created. We annotated with entity and why it is not created. So we'll revisit our properties, what we have done here. So because we have added this property Spring JP Hibernate DDL auto, this property holds 4 values. First is none, second is validate, third is update, and the fourth is create and draw. Many people don't explain this thing, and this thing is asked in an interview because this is very crucial for beginners. And even I've experienced some experienced developer also does not know much about these property. They just copy paste from anywhere and just try to rerun their application, and not most of the time, but some of the time some beginners or even experienced professional made a mistake that by mistake they added something wrong here and they promoted it to staging environment, which is a step before production, and then because of this thing it has deleted all the records in that environment. And it's not a big thing. I mean, it's a big thing, not for staging, but for production it should be a big thing. But many places people do mistake. They don't know the difference between these four, and they never try it out, and they always face an issue in this. So none means nothing will happen, is quite safe. So now as soon as we change it to validate, we'll see what is going to happen. We will run it. We'll see what will happen. Okay, it threw me some error. It has thrown me some error. What error it has thrown me? Error application run to fail. Unable to build Hibernate session factory nested exception. Missing table customers. So as soon as I change the property from none to validate, it has done something. Means it is trying to create, or it is trying to do something which causes it to throw an error because customer table is not present here. We haven't created. Let me just sit down. We don't have any customer table. So, and we are using validate. Validation is verifying sort of thing, validating whether table is present or not. That's why we got this error. Now, so we know what none is. None will do anything. None is nothing. Validate will validate the information, and it is not causing any impact. It is. You can also run this and find out how many entities are present in your table, and it will show you an error. Now the third one is update. Now we'll see what will happen. We'll run our application. Okay, application started and successfully shut down. Now we'll come to our table and we will refresh it. Okay. Now, if you have seen when we did none, nothing present here. Now we come to validate, it threw an error. Now we come to update. It has created a table called customers, which is our entity. And now we'll come to our columns. Wow, we have exactly those columns what we have created in our entity. 1, 2, 3, 4, 7 columns are there. ID is here. Customer ID, email, first name, last name, mobile number, username. Coming back to our entity again, you will notice few things here. Few things means if you see these two variables, first name and last name and last name is not created the way we have mentioned in our entity. If you see CID and username or email and number, mobile number, these three have not created the way we have defined in our entity. Why? Because the way Hibernate and Spring work is, if you have this thing, if you have uppercase, it will put an underscore and make it the first character lowercase. This is the design is. This is quite weird, right? It is inconsistent if you say. So they define. We'll come how to make it more efficient. But this is, you need to always make sure. Many people don't do it. I have seen a lot of code. People don't know this, or maybe they know it. They don't want to make it better code. They just do it. Somewhere it is underscore, somewhere it is not. It is quite inconsistent. You see, right? ID, then CID, email, then first name underscore. It is inconsistent. It is not good practice to design a better database. Now, next step is now video is getting longer. What are we going to do is, we'll come here. We will just try to do an insert. As our ID is integer, okay, so what are we going to do is, we'll just add one. Customer ID is okay, customer email is ID email, okay. we'll enter this information. First name, last name, mobile number is, username is, okay. So now let us run this query and see. Okay, query ran successful. We'll go to our details and then we'll view all the information. So now you could see that this table, this customer table, holds the information of one record of this information. So now it is perfect, working fine, right? So now what are we going to do is we'll again change it to none and we will rerun our application. Okay, application run successful. We will rerun our query, see what will happen. Okay, there is no impact. Need to make sure there is no impact. Now change it to validate. We'll run validate. We will run our, okay, no impact. Now there is one thing will come. Oh, we'll run one more time. Okay, we'll run update one more time. So if you're watching my channel till now, if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe to my channel. You will learn a lot in future, that is for sure. So many things will come in picture. So please subscribe to my channel. So nothing happened. If you see, I just changed it to update. We try none, validate and update. Now the complicated one is, this is very complicated. It's not complicated, but people do mistake it. They just copy paste from somewhere, from a site to stage some environment to another environment. They don't check this thing. So just copy paste. Even not in property file or YAML file or anywhere it is. Information are provided, but they don't check it. So now we change this to create -drop. This is very crucial. So now we'll run it, see what will happen. Now we ran our application. We will come back to our, see what will happen. Now did you see what happened? We run the query and it is throwing me an error. We'll refresh it. So you see what happened? Table itself is gone. So never ever keep it note down. Always remember, whenever you are connecting to you join a company, you are a beginner, you are a fresher, or whoever you are, at what level you are, always try to check this information. This is very important. People do mistake. They always don't check it. They try to make it work out, but it does not happen always, but you senior developer do face this type of issue when junior developer do this type of information, and then it come to us that, oh, I haven't checked it. So many people don't know it, so I'm just creating it before we proceed further, right? Many people don't know. They just run in and tell me, oh sir, my database is not created, what I should do and all. So this is quite crucial. Rest all quite common. Everyone tell you this thing. URL, username, password. This is very important in an interview. Whenever you are interviewing, right, they definitely ask you this question when you say that you have worked with Hibernate. Yes, this is for fresher. Experienced people mostly know this thing, but many people don't know the difference between none, update and validate. They just keep it update or it is none. That's it. Update is for everywhere. It is causing you no impact, but they even don't know the difference between none, update, and then they know none means nothing will happen, but validate, update and create drop, you don't know it. Because for example, you need to understand, right? Sometimes what happen is, there is one more thing, right? We can define preloaded SQL. So you create drop feature only applicable for certain tables, that where you have to drop it and recreate that table. That's why that table is there. Delete that information and then recreate it every time whenever the application boots up. So for example, in a scenario, right? So what happens is that if you have this property in production, okay, and whenever your server restarted, so what will happen is that table will refresh. So the particular tables, that particular application tables will refresh. So those are quite advanced level information which I'm sharing it to you right now. That what happened is that you build an application which is purely on this thing. Whenever application is started, it will delete all the information from the records of database. Nothing will exist. So video is getting quite longer. This is just the beginning of introduction to Hibernate and how we can connect to our Postgre database from our Spring application using our customer entity. This is quite basic one. Upcoming videos will have more information, more details. We'll connect this from our REST API to database, and then upcoming videos it will be from front application, then REST API, then database, then moving on it will be Elasticsearch, and then moving on it will be Docker. So many things, man. If you haven't subscribed to my channel. Thank you.